The chandelier light didn't just catch the diamond on Olivia Hartwell's wrist. It fractured the massive $50,000 stone into 1,000 glittering, icy fragments. That diamond was cold. Colder, perhaps, than the deafening silence that lay like a shroud between Olivia and her 7-year-old daughter, Harper. Harper sat rigid at the elaborate gala table, a portrait of forced stillness. Her small hands were clasped so tightly they were white at the knuckles. Her eyes locked onto the pristine expanse of the white linen tablecloth, while her mother, only 3 seats away, offered dazzling, calculated smiles to major investors. Then, a shift. A stranger's hands moved across the gap, not reaching for food or a glass, but signing. Fluent, purposeful movements. The little girl's head snapped up with a jolt. Her first genuine, unscripted movement in 2 grueling hours. The man shouldn't have been there. Lucas Bennett, an architect perhaps, certainly identifiable by his slightly ill-fitting, rented suit, dropped without hesitation, crouching down to Harper's exact eye level. His fingers began spelling out words, the language Olivia had been too important, too busy, or too fearful to learn. Olivia's expensive champagne glass froze halfway to her perfectly painted lips. Her daughter was laughing, actually laughing. A soundless, visible burst of pure delight, with a man she had never laid eyes on. A man who somehow effortlessly spoke the language Olivia had spent 6 long years actively avoiding. It was the language that served as a constant, crushing reminder of everything she couldn't control, couldn't optimize, and couldn't fix. But here was the detail that truly froze her blood. Harper was signing back. Fast, eager, animated. Alive in a way she never allowed herself to be at home, under Olivia's sterile scrutiny. And when the stranger finally looked up, his gaze locking with Olivia's across the glittering room, his expression was not one of trespass or nervous justification. It was profound, searing pity. What kind of mother doesn't learn to speak to her own child? What kind of highly paid CEO can successfully build a $50 million empire only to fail at bridging 3 feet of agonizing silence? That unspoken judgment was about to shatter the meticulously constructed foundation of everything Olivia thought she had achieved, because that stranger knew a truth she refused to face. And Harper? She had simply been waiting for someone, anyone, to finally hear her voice. Olivia Hartwell's reflection stared back from the floor-to-ceiling windows of her corner office, suspended 30 stories above the precise, glowing grid of Pittsburgh's skyline. At 34, she had executed her plan flawlessly. She was the formidable CEO of Hartwell Innovations, a revolutionary tech firm valued at $50 million. The view stretched out for dizzying miles, encompassing the full scope of the city she dominated. But she wasn't looking at the city's success. Her gaze was caught by a small, perfectly preserved child-sized handprint on the glass, left there 3 weeks earlier during Harper's brief, supervised visit. Olivia had routinely meant to have it professionally cleaned. She kept forgetting, or perhaps, deep down, she kept choosing not to erase the small, tangible evidence that her daughter existed in her world at all. Her assistant's voice crackled, metallic and impersonal, through the intercom. "Mrs. Hartwell, Walsh Industries is here for the merger discussion. And your daughter's school called again about that mandatory conference." Olivia pressed the button, decisive. "Send in Walsh. Tell Mrs. Chun I'll call her back." She wouldn't. They both knew it. The merger meeting consumed her entire afternoon. It was a dense fog of spreadsheets, aggressive projections, and the demanding work of convincing intensely rich men that her intellectual vision was worth their $60 million. Gregory Walsh, the head of the firm, studied her with unnerving intensity across the vast expanse of the mahogany table. "You've built something truly impressive, Olivia, but can you sustain this crushing pace? Running a company this size demands complete, singular dedication. Hartwell Innovations is my priority. Always has been." The words came out easily, hardened by 6 years of repetition, because they were undeniably true. This focus had been absolute since her husband died, leaving her with a 2-year-old toddler and a business dream that required more emotional and physical hours than any one person possessed. "My daughter is exceptionally well cared for. I've structured my life rigorously to accommodate both responsibilities. Harper had the most exclusive private schools, the most expensive specialist therapists, the best of everything money could buy and scheduling could arrange. Everything, that is, except the one vital thing that could not be purchased or slotted neatly between board meetings. At precisely 6 p.m. her phone displayed 6 frantic missed calls from the babysitter. The critical Walsh Gala was scheduled for tonight. Gregory Walsh would be there, watching, judging whether she truly possessed the capacity to balance this high-stakes life. Mrs. Hartwell, I'm so sorry. The text read. My mother had a bad fall. I simply cannot make it tonight. Olivia cycled quickly through her meticulously maintained backup list. All busy. All unavailable. The decision made itself with a cold inevitability. She would bring Harper to the gala. It wasn't merely suboptimal. It was a disaster waiting to happen. But ideal had ceased to be an operational option years ago. Harper sat curled deep into the luxurious leather sofa in their living room. Her small body dwarfed, engrossed in her tablet, watching something technical with intense subtitles. She didn't look up when Olivia entered the room. She had long ago internalized the lesson not to anticipate much. Olivia tapped her shoulder lightly, then signed clumsily, the unfamiliar shapes feeling stiff and embarrassing. Tonight, big party. You come with me. Okay. Harper nodded, devoid of any visible expression, and went upstairs to change without argument. She had learned, at a painfully young age, not to cause problems and certainly not to expect her mother to truly understand her needs. She had learned, primarily, to be small and effortlessly manageable. The Grandview Hotel's ballroom was a blinding expanse, glittering with polished wealth and aggressive ambition. Olivia entered with Harper's tiny hand clasped in hers, immediately feeling the concentrated weight of judging eyes. A successful woman appearing alone with a young child at a high-level business function signaled instability. It suggested fatally divided attention. Harper wore an exquisite midnight blue velvet dress and the delicate pearl necklace Olivia had struggled to fasten around her neck in the hurried, dim privacy of the town car, whispering vague, non-specific apologies. Now the child sat anchored at table 7, those small hands folded tight, while Olivia circulated the room, weaponizing champagne and her calculated, focused charm. Gregory Walsh materialized smoothly at her elbow. Your daughter. His gaze flicked briefly toward Harper across the room. Beautiful child. How old is she now? 7. My granddaughter is 8. Never stops talking. He paused, waiting patiently for Olivia to share some corresponding detail, something that would prove she knew her own daughter well enough to trade comfortable parental anecdotes. Harper is quiet, very self-sufficient, Olivia stated, maintaining her smile. She takes after her father. The evening progressed in tightly scheduled 30-minute increments. Olivia checked on Harper periodically, each time finding her daughter precisely where she had been left. Small hands folded, eyes vacant, fixed on nothing. Other children, less disciplined, would have complained bitterly or wandered off. Harper had learned, however, that being inconvenient meant being instantly left behind. At 7:45, Olivia glanced toward table 7 and froze absolutely. A man was crouched low on the floor beside Harper's chair, his knees resting directly on the cold marble in a position that was rapidly ruining the cut of his suit trousers. His hands moved in fluid, graceful patterns Olivia recognized but remained entirely unable to read. And Harper, quiet, perpetually still Harper, was staring at him with pure, unadulterated wonder. She was smiling, truly smiling, a radiance that reached her eyes. Her small hands rose, tentatively at first, then faster, beginning to move in response, like a secret language she had been diligently storing up, awaiting the chance to speak. Olivia crossed the ballroom, her expensive heels clicking sharply, aggressively, against the polished marble floor. The man was perhaps 30, with dark hair slightly too long for corporate standards, and a suit visibly too cheap for this level of high-end fundraising. His fingers spelled words with practiced, easy fluency. Harper's face was animated, lit up in ways Olivia had genuinely forgotten were possible. When the stranger glanced up and his eyes met Olivia's, his expression was utterly devoid of apology or fear. It was simply pitying. That look struck Olivia with a force far greater than any catastrophic boardroom defeat. This stranger in a cheap suit was looking at her as if she had failed some essential, fundamental test of human connection. And, terrifyingly, he was right. Lucas Bennett straightened slowly, giving Harper's small shoulder a brief, gentle squeeze. "Mrs. Hartwell, I presume. Who are you? What exactly are you doing with my daughter?" Olivia's voice was low, sharp with managerial command. "Lucas Bennett, Precision Climate Control." He gestured vaguely toward a ceiling ventilation unit. "HVAC emergency. Great." He held up his hands in a gesture of simple fact. "I was just leaving when I noticed Harper sitting completely alone. I thought she might appreciate a moment of company." "You can't just approach someone's child like that." "You're right," Lucas conceded calmly. "I apologize, but you seemed intensely busy, and Harper looked profoundly lonely, so I made a judgment call that prioritized the child." Harper was signing frantically now, her face beginning to crumple with anxiety, trying to mediate the adult conflict. Olivia attempted to sign something reassuring herself, but her rigid fingers immediately formed meaningless, clumsy shapes. Lucas signed to Harper, smooth, practiced, utterly fluent, and the child's shoulders instantly relaxed just slightly. "What did you tell her?" Olivia demanded, her voice tight. "That you're not angry at her. That she didn't do anything wrong by talking to me. I also told her that sometimes parents need a lot of time to learn how to listen." He met Olivia's gaze, unforgiving. "Some of us are slower learners than others." The words landed on Olivia not like advice, but like a physical slap across the face. "You have absolutely no right to judge my parenting. I know that your daughter has been sitting alone for 2 hours at a table full of highly compensated adults who cannot communicate with her." Lucas returned, his voice dangerously quiet. "I know she positively lit up when someone finally spoke her language. And I know you are more concerned about how this looks, the optics of me kneeling here, than about why a total stranger could forge a genuine connection with your child in 5 minutes when you haven't managed it in 7 years. Olivia's hands began to shake almost imperceptibly. Lucas wasn't wrong. He was perhaps cruel in his delivery, but the substance was unassailable. Harper signed something urgent, her brow furrowed. Lucas translated. "She wants to know if she can email me. She has questions about a book." "Absolutely not. We are leaving now." Olivia signed, "Come now," with a harsh, final movement. Harper pulled her hand away. She stood up on her own, gathered her small purse with a quiet dignity, and walked toward the exit without even a backward glance, already used to navigating life's transitions alone. "Stay away from my daughter," Olivia warned Lucas. "If she reaches out," he responded evenly. "I'm not going to ignore her. Someone should listen." He took out his phone and displayed his screen, an email address glowing in the display. "In case you ever decide to learn how to talk to your daughter properly. Free advice, Mrs. Hartwell. The longer you wait, the harder it gets. Eventually, you run out of time entirely." In the silent black car, Harper stared fixedly out the window, her body angled decisively away from Olivia. Olivia tried 3 separate times to initiate a conversation, but her clumsy, half-remembered signs felt utterly inadequate, unable to bridge the gaping emotional distance. They drove home surrounded by the familiar, heavy silence of their shared existence. At the penthouse, Harper went straight to her room, the door closing softly but decisively. Olivia stood in the vast, sterile kitchen, pouring a glass of wine she ultimately wouldn't drink, staring at the side of the refrigerator. There, held by a strong magnet, was Harper's crayon drawing. 2 simple stick figures positioned on opposite sides of the paper, separated by a thick, aggressive black line drawn right down the middle. Olivia had initially dismissed it as juvenile abstract art. Now she understood it was a map of their relationship. Her phone buzzed, vibrating on the granite counter. An email. It was from Harper. *Thank you for talking to me tonight. You're the first person who ever truly understood me. I wish you were my dad instead. Below Harper's message was a rapid reply from Lucas. Asterisk, you're very welcome, Harper. Don't let anyone make you feel like being deaf means being less than. It just means being different, and different is good. If you want to email about books, I'm here. But give your mom a chance. Sometimes parents are just scared. Lucas Star. Olivia read Lucas's reply 3 times, her throat constricting painfully. Her 7-year-old daughter was having more meaningful, authentic conversations with a total stranger via email than she had ever managed with her own mother. She opened her browser with shaky hands. Asterisk, how to learn American Sign Language. 3 million results flashed on the screen. She clicked the very first link, reading about relentless commitment and daily practice. Months, the article stated, were required for basic conversation, years for full fluency. She closed the laptop abruptly without enrolling in anything. Tomorrow, she promised herself. Asterisk, I'll figure it out tomorrow. Asterisk, but tomorrow was a promise she had been making, and subsequently breaking, for 6 straight years. Harper woke precisely at 6:30 a.m. to the familiar buzzing of her vibrating alarm, immediately checking her tablet. One new email from Lucas. Asterisk, hi Harper. Thanks for writing, and please don't wish for a different parent. Your mom absolutely loves you. She's just scared. I had a sister once who was deaf, just like you. Rachel. She died when she was 10 and I was 15. Give your mom time. Sometimes people surprise you. Also, I have a son named Oliver who's 8 and totally obsessed with dinosaurs. He wants to know if you like any dinosaurs at all. Lucas Star. Harper read the message 4 times, absorbing the hidden context. She typed back instantly, her fingers flying. Asterisk, tell Oliver that pterodactyls are definitely not dinosaurs. They're flying reptiles, but they're still cool. My mom didn't seem mad, just stressed. Thank you for being nice. Most people just pretend I'm not there. At breakfast, Olivia signed, good morning, with exaggerated stiffness and obvious clumsiness. Harper signed back an acknowledgement and poured her cereal. They ate in the practiced routine of parallel silence. Olivia's attention fractured between nervously checking her phone and guilty, furtive glances at her daughter. The private school car arrived promptly. Harper gathered her backpack, waiting automatically for the mechanical goodbye kiss. Olivia delivered it, then signed have a good day with obvious effort. Harper nodded, and left for the day without looking back, achieving perfect self-sufficiency. At Hawthorne Academy, Harper moved through her specialized classes with practiced invisibility. Math, English, then lunch in the vast, echoing cafeteria where a few other students might sign basic pleasantries across the table. But none ever invited her to join them. She ate alone, engrossed in her book. Her tablet buzzed softly. Asterisk, Lucas. Oliver is incredibly impressed. You definitely know your pterodactyls. He really wants to meet you. We go to East Liberty Library most Saturday mornings around 10 o'clock. Your mom would be completely welcome, too. No pressure. Lucas Star. Harper stared at the casual invitation, a nervous thrill spreading through her chest. She typed back immediately, trying to manage expectations. Asterisk, I'll ask my mom, but she works a lot. Maybe just me. Lucas responded almost instantly. Asterisk, the invitation stands either way. But Harper, don't give up on her. Sometimes parents need time to truly figure things out. That evening, Olivia arrived home at 7:30 p.m. exhausted and carrying fragrant takeout Thai food. They ate dinner with the large television on, a source of impersonal background noise. Halfway through the meal, Olivia's phone rang. Gregory Walsh. I have to take this, she murmured, retreating to the balcony. She returned 15 minutes later, her expression a complex mixture of exhaustion and sudden focus. Walsh wants to move forward with the merger, but he has significant concerns about my work-life balance. He wants to see demonstrable evidence I can manage both roles before committing $60 million. Harper pulled out her tablet, seeing the opening. Asterisk, someone invited me to the library on Saturday morning. Lucas from the gala. He has a son my age named Oliver who likes dinosaurs. Can I go? Olivia's expression rapidly cycled through initial surprise, immediate suspicion, and then a wave of calculated panic. Gregory Walsh wants to see family prioritization. This suddenly was perfect optics. She signed slowly, deliberately. Maybe if I come too. What time? Harper typed quickly, her excitement barely contained. 10:00 a.m. East Liberty Library. I'll email him. We're both coming. Olivia opened her laptop instantly. American Sign Language Classes Pittsburgh. This time she didn't hesitate. She clicked the link for the Pittsburgh Sign Language Center, which offered intensive private tutoring. She filled out the long form, provided her corporate credit card details, and closed the laptop before the inevitable wave of regret or second thoughts could hit. It was barely a start, a desperate measure, but Harper's sudden, radiant smile when Olivia had agreed to the library visit had been undeniably real. Saturday arrived charged with Harper's contained, nervous excitement. She had changed her outfit 3 times, eventually settling on a perfectly acceptable navy sweater, and had brushed her hair until it shone like spun silk. They drove to the library in a silence that felt less hostile than usual, more like a waiting. Inside the warm, familiar scent of old paper and dust, Lucas stood near the brightly colored children's section. He was dressed entirely casually in jeans and a faded university sweatshirt. Next to him, a boy with unruly dark hair, clutching a massive dinosaur encyclopedia, bounced visibly with uncontrolled energy. Lucas signed something quick and easy to the boy, Oliver, who looked up with immediate, open curiosity. Then Lucas signed effortlessly to Harper. The movements were fluid, natural, completely organic, and Harper signed back with an immediate, corresponding fluency. Olivia understood perhaps 30% of the exchange, a crushing testament to her neglect. Mrs. Hartwell, thank you for coming. Hi. Oliver shook her hand with a surprising, firm formality. Dad says you're Harper's mom and that you're learning to sign, which is really cool. Oliver, breathe. Lucas interjected mildly, a hand settling briefly on his son's shoulder. Oliver immediately turned his attention to Harper and signed something that made her dissolve into a bubbly giggle. Both children disappeared instantly into the towering stacks of picture books. Coffee? Lucas suggested. They ordered 2 cups and found a small table from which they could keep watch on the children, who were already sprawled on the carpet examining Oliver's encyclopedia with intense focus. Thank you for agreeing to this, Lucas said, stirring his coffee. Harper seemed incredibly excited. She doesn't have many friends. She's always the outsider, the deaf kid who's different. Different isn't bad, Olivia recited. I know that intellectually, she admitted, watching her daughter laugh silently with a new friend. But knowing and truly believing are entirely different things. Lucas watched her carefully, his expression guarded but kind. Can I ask you, genuinely, why you didn't learn to sign years ago when Harper was first diagnosed? The question hung in the air, the single brutal question she had successfully avoided addressing for 7 grueling years. Because learning sign language felt like giving up, Olivia confessed, her voice barely a whisper. The doctors kept pushing cochlear implants and intensive speech therapy. I kept thinking if I just tried hard enough, spent enough money, Harper could be normal. Learning ASL felt like admitting defeat, like confirming she'd never hear, never speak. Felt like total surrender. She swallowed hard, gripping the warm ceramic mug. And now I realized that surrender might have been the kindest, most necessary thing I could have done. I successfully built an empire of $50 million, but in the process I lost my daughter. Some CEO I turned out to be. Lucas was quiet for a long moment, the silence thick with unspoken history. My sister, Rachel, was deaf from birth, he finally said. My father couldn't handle it. He spent years obsessively chasing treatments, cures, and experimental surgeries. Then Rachel got meningitis. She was 10 years old, lying in that hospital bed, dying. She tried desperately to sign something to my father, her final words, and he couldn't understand because he still hadn't learned the language. Lucas's eyes were distant, haunted. She died trying to talk to him, and he never knew what she wanted to say. God, Lucas, I'm so incredibly sorry. I was 15 and completely fluent because I had actually listened to my sister. I watched my father break in two because he'd waited too long, wasted the time trying to force her to change. So when I see parents making those same exact mistakes, yes, I get harsh. Because I know exactly how this story ends if you don't fundamentally change the trajectory. They sat in silence, watching the two children who were now animatedly sorting books by size. The merger I'm working on, Olivia began, needing to articulate the complication. Walsh has serious concerns about my capacity for work-life balance. So yes, this is partly about optics for a $60 million deal, and partly about finally getting real. She took a deep breath. I enrolled in intensive ASL tutoring 3 days ago. Twice a week. I'm trying for real this time. I just don't know if trying 7 years late is enough to fix anything. Trying is all you've got left, Lucas said, his tone finally softening. And it's infinitely more than nothing. He softened his expression completely. I was too hard on you at the gala because seeing Harper sitting there triggered something deeply personal about Rachel. It wasn't entirely fair. You weren't wrong, though, Olivia insisted. I chose wrong every single day for 7 years. I can't undo that past. All I can do is choose differently now. The children returned, faces flushed with excitement, carrying impossible, leaning stacks of books. Can Oliver come to our house next week? Harper signed, her expression pleading. Please. Olivia's immediate, ingrained instinct was to say, no. Too disruptive. Too much planning. But Lucas's hard-won words echoed clearly. Asterisk choose differently. Asterisk she signed back, slowly but clearly, yes, next Saturday. Harper's face transformed into an unparalleled look of pure, concentrated joy. They checked out the books and walked out into the crisp October sunshine. We do this every Saturday, Lucas mentioned casually. You and Harper are welcome to join us anytime. I'd like that very much, Olivia said. Harper suddenly threw her small arms around Olivia's waist in a tight, fierce hug that felt genuine for the first time in years. The weeks accumulated, each one marked by small, incremental changes that steadily compounded the distance between them. Olivia's Tuesday and Thursday evenings now belonged exclusively to Patricia Morrison at the Sign Language Center. Patricia, in her 40s, was sharp-eyed and possessed zero patience for corporate excuses. You're still translating in your head, Patricia signed emphatically during one session. Stop thinking in English words. Start thinking in concepts. SL isn't just English on your hands. It's a completely different grammatical language. The homework was relentless. Olivia practiced constantly. During conference calls, fingers moving silently under the table, at red lights, reciting vocab before finally falling asleep. At home, the toxic dynamic slowly shifted. Olivia practiced her verbs while cooking dinner, narrating the process in broken, imperfect ASL while Harper corrected her mother's hand shapes gently. They developed new, fragile routines. Olivia slowly signing descriptions of her corporate day. Harper responding, patient but honest, to the improving signs. Saturday mornings were now sacrosanct library mornings with Lucas and Oliver. The children bonded fiercely over science fiction, graphic novels, and the complex theories of time travel. The adults bonded quietly over lukewarm coffee and a shared, deep understanding of the unique isolation inherent in raising children alone. How's the ASL coming along? Lucas asked during their 5th Saturday together. Slowly, Olivia admitted. I can understand perhaps 50% of your conversation now, but it's still so physically hard to execute the speed. That's normal. Took me 3 years to stop constantly translating in my head. You're doing better than you think. They watched their children signing rapidly, intimately. Does it ever stop feeling like a secret language you're barely invited to understand? Yes and no, Lucas replied, thoughtfully watching his son. I'll always be a hearing person operating in a deaf person's world. In a sense, but that's parenthood anyway. Eventually, they all develop languages, literal or metaphorical, that we have to work tirelessly to understand. The difference is simply whether we choose to put in the work. November slid into December. Olivia's company moved forward seamlessly with the Walsh merger. Gregory Walsh was increasingly confident that she had achieved a true, workable balance. The Hartwell Innovations holiday party approached rapidly. Olivia made a final decision that would have been completely unthinkable only 3 months earlier. She invited Harper properly, then sent a frank, corporate-wide email to all staff. * My daughter, Harper, will be attending this year. She is deaf and uses American Sign Language. There will be a professional interpreter present, but I genuinely encourage anyone interested to learn basic signs. The party was held in the exact same location, the glittering ballroom of the Grandview Hotel. Olivia and Harper arrived together. Harper wore a deep green velvet dress that brought out the color of her eyes. This time, Harper stood immediately beside her mother as Olivia greeted high-level colleagues. "This is my daughter, Harper," Olivia announced with a new, quiet pride. "She's deaf and brilliant, and she loves books about time travel." Some people reacted with obvious awkwardness, shuffling their feet. Others made genuine, hesitant efforts, using the professional interpreter or attempting the few basic signs they'd hastily researched. Gregory Walsh approached her midway through the evening, his gaze holding genuine respect. "Mrs. Hartwell, this must be Harper." Harper signed smoothly. *Hello. Walsh crouched slightly to her level, mimicking Lucas's respectful posture instinctively. "Your mother tells me you're quite the reader. What's your favorite book right now?" Harper considered the question seriously. Her response was translated perfectly by the interpreter standing discreetly nearby. "Right now, I'm reading about a girl who finds a magical library where every book is a portal to a different world. Do you like to read?" "When I have time, yes." "What would you recommend for a busy executive?" Harper looked him over, judging his severity. "Maybe start with short stories. They're like practice for longer books." Walsh genuinely laughed, a deep, satisfied sound. "Smart girl. You've made truly impressive changes, Olivia. The company is solid, but more importantly, you seem fundamentally more grounded. That's the sustainability I was looking for." Lucas appeared a few minutes later with Oliver, both in slightly formal, if slightly crumpled, clothes. "You came," Olivia said, genuinely surprised. "Oliver insisted," Lucas smiled. "Plus, I wanted to see how you navigate this world now that you've learned to navigate Harper's." The four of them formed a small, comfortable island of authentic connection in the vast, impersonal sea of networking. Colleagues continued to approach, testing their varying signing ability. Harper handled everyone with a grace and patience far beyond her 7 years. Near the end of the evening, Harper gently tugged Olivia's velvet sleeve. "This was good. Your work people are nice. They tried to talk to me for real." "They like you," Olivia signed, fighting a sudden swell of emotion. "How could they not? Because I'm different. Because I'm the weird deaf kid." Olivia crouched down immediately, bringing her face level with Harper's. "You're not weird. You're just Harper." She signed it clearly, then said the words aloud. "And Harper is exactly who you are supposed to be. Anyone who can't see that isn't worth your time." Harper's eyes filled with tears, happy ones this time. She threw her arms around Olivia's neck in a fierce, clinging hug. "I love you," Olivia said aloud, signing the movement with complete conviction. She felt Harper physically relax against her heart. "Love you too. Thank you for learning my language." They drove home through the quiet December snow, the heavy powder reflecting the city lights, making everything look clean, pristine, and wonderfully possible. Harper was drowsy, curled up beside her. At home, Olivia gently tucked Harper into her bed, sitting on the edge of the mattress, watching her daughter's peaceful, satisfied face. 3 short months ago, they had been wealthy strangers sharing a house. Now they were family, genuine, imperfect, and finally connected. Harper stirred slightly, signed sleepily into the air. "You're a good mom now, getting better every day." Harper's quiet observation. "You were trying hard today. landed with more force than any scathing review or boardroom takedown Olivia had ever faced. It was the purest form of acceptance. Olivia leaned down, placing a gentle kiss on her daughter's forehead, the soft skin a contrast to the tension she always held. Her hands moved slowly, deliberately, forming the signs. "I am trying. That is the only pledge I can make to you now." Harper's green eyes shone. "Trying is enough, Mama. That's all we can do." Olivia descended the stairs. The polished wood cool beneath her feet. In the kitchen, she poured a glass of deep ruby wine, savoring the taste. It was a comfort earned, not a desperate anesthetic. Her mind drifted back to that disastrous gala, the moment a stranger's casual pity had exposed the hollowness of her meticulously engineered life. She had chased the glittering mirage of an empire, sacrificing everything for a title and a balance sheet, completely blind to the true, irreplaceable kingdom patiently waiting right in front of her. A small, resolute girl with brilliant green eyes who had waited 7 long years for her mother to finally turn around and truly see her. She opened her heavy laptop, but not for the usual reason, not to chase quarterly projections or draft contracts. Instead, she navigated to the practice modules for tomorrow's lesson with Patricia. Her fingers began moving, cycling through vocabulary signs, feeling the unfamiliar shapes become less awkward, transitioning into muscle memory. The transformation was slow. Fluency demanded months, perhaps years, of unwavering commitment. But the calendar no longer terrified her with deadlines. It offered a promise. Harper was 7. They had an entire future stretching before them, years of opportunities to build something resilient and true, provided Olivia kept choosing the difficult, meaningful path over the path of least resistance. A soft buzz from her phone interrupted the silence. An email from Lucas. She hesitated for a moment before opening it. The message was simple, yet profound. "Oliver wanted me to tell you that Harper is the coolest person he knows besides his dad," which is apparently the highest possible praise in the world of third-grade boys. "Also, I wanted to tell you directly, you are genuinely doing so well. The adjustments you've been making aren't marginal improvements. They are fundamentally everything. Rachel would have truly liked you. She always held on to the radical belief that people could change, profoundly and completely, if they wanted to badly enough. Turns out she was absolutely right." Lucas, a surprising warmth, unfamiliar and deeply reassuring, spread across Olivia's chest as she read the words twice. It was validation from the person who had every right to judge her failures. She typed a reply instantly, her fingers flying over the keys. "Thank you. Thank you for not walking away from us, for being brutally harsh when I absolutely needed the shock, and for offering quiet kindness when I needed that instead. Harper talks about Oliver constantly. They are fast friends. You and Oliver have given us something invaluable, a connection we didn't realize was missing. We finally feel like we belong to a family that truly understands." She hit the send button swiftly, refusing to allow her habitual overthinking to dissect the sincerity of the words. The moment they were gone, she felt lighter. Upstairs, Harper slept in perfect peace, likely dreaming of whispered secrets in libraries, and the secure feeling of having a mother who was finally learning to inhabit her world. Downstairs, Olivia sat hunched over the kitchen island, practicing signs until the muscles in her hands tightened and cramped, learning the shapes for abstract concepts. Hope, change, and crucially, tomorrow. That word was no longer a deadline she was guaranteed to break, but a sacred commitment she was learning, finally, how to keep. The thick, almost aggressive black line, Harper's original uncompromising depiction of the distance between them, remained on the refrigerator door. But now, nestled between the 2 crayon stick figures, an addition had appeared, something Olivia hadn't consciously registered until this moment. A small, uneven bridge sketched lightly in purple crayon. It was rough, structurally imperfect, perhaps slightly wobbly, yet undeniably profoundly there. Harper must have drawn it sometime in the last few days. It was tangible evidence, a child's simple map showing that the chasm could be crossed, provided someone was willing to attempt the construction. Olivia reached out and gently traced the crayon bridge with one fingertip. this visual diagram of their transforming relationship, moving from rigid separation to tentative connection, was the most beautiful piece of art she had ever owned. The bridge was small, the original black line of division still thick and dark, shadowing the scene, but bridges were meant to be reinforced, built wider, made stronger and permanent. They had the resources now. They had time, they had shared willingness, and most importantly, after 7 harrowing years of silence, they had finally found a language they could both truly speak. And that, Olivia was realizing, was enough. It wasn't perfect. The damage of the lost years remained. An emotional scar that wouldn't entirely fade. But it was enough to start rebuilding something authentic and enduring from the emotional wreckage she had nearly lost forever. Outside the window, a late, cleansing snow began to drift down onto the streets of Pittsburgh, covering the urban grit in a layer of pristine white, making the world feel newly scrubbed and full of potential. Inside, a mother continued to practice the signs for I love you until her fingers ached, until the motion became instinctive, until the words ceased being a mechanical translation and became, finally, the undeniable truth of her heart. The emotional distance between herself and her daughter was shrinking, sign by sign, just enough for Olivia to truly believe that it might one day vanish completely. One intentional sign at a time, one committed day at a time, one brave choice replacing an easy one. That was the formula for bridging the chasm. That was how you constructed a solid connection. That was how you learned to articulate the language of unconditional love after spending years speaking only the paralyzing dialect of fear, desperate control, and profoundly misguided protection. Harper had been waiting 7 years for her mother to finally grasp this essential lesson. Now, Olivia had irrevocably started paying real, sustained attention. And in the sacred space between agonizing silence and genuine understanding, between destructive absence and healing presence, between the parent she had rigidly been and the parent she was finally allowing herself to become, something quiet, difficult, and utterly miraculous was unfolding. They were learning to talk to each other, not just with hands, but with souls, and that, Olivia knew, made all the difference in the world.